I need to declare my bias up front. I absolutely love stress. But that's not always been that way. I once was afraid of what stress could do to my body, because that's what science told me. And that's what you all know. Stress is bad for you. You should stay away. So my epiphany, by the time I turned 35, I realized I suffered toxic stress. It turned me into a full-blown Godzilla, ready to fight off everyone or anything. But at the same time, I realized that I had made it. I had a top job, I had a great income, and I was a professor on the side, which gave me the perfect balance between entrepreneurship and science. I was traveling around the world, 2 kids and a wonderful partner. But still, I felt awful. I suffered physical complaints, exhaustion, and mental fatigue. And I had insecurities bubbling up everywhere. So I did what I knew I had to do to try to make things better, to try to fix it. I took every weapon I could lay my hands on, but without the anticipated result. And in the end, I was forced to stop and look at myself. And when I did look in the mirror, I didn't look happy. I was stuck in this perfect world, doing very important stuff, but without a sense of fulfillment. Never was it enough. No matter how many hours I'd spent, I never felt flourishing, vital, or talented anymore. And I was not respecting myself nor my body. Sounds familiar? Numbers on people suffering toxic stress are rising fast. And we have not yet reached the peak. Fortunately, governments and organizations have felt that sense of urgency and started to invest. Invest in teaching us what the negatives are about stress and educating us on how toxic stress looks and feels like. But without the anticipated result. One would indeed expect that those numbers would stabilize and drop. But the opposite is true. Now, when I grew more passionate about stress, I learned that not everything about stress is bad. That actually, without stress, we would no longer evolve. And so I started to wonder, if it's true that those numbers are rising while we are teaching people the negatives on stress, could it not be that we are going about it the wrong way? Could it not be that the mere fact that we are focusing on how toxic stress looks and feels like is actually facilitating more stress? So how did I go about in answering that question? We are very fast in going and look outside ourselves. So for once, let's go in and look under the hood. Stress starts right in your brain, right in between your ears. And there are a number of mechanisms triggered that will help you deal with stress. Stress can help you describe yourself better. But stress can also help you define your path to fulfillment. How? By sending signals. It will indicate obstacles, sudden unforeseen blockages along your way. Now, prolonged stress can definitely be toxic for your body, but not everything about stress is bad. And before we turn sick, there is a whole evolution going from good stress to bad stress. And it almost always starts with a feeling of arousal and anxiety. A bit like I am experiencing here today on this stage. I'm excited to be here, and I can feel it. And my body is aroused, actually shaking a bit. I have an increased attention on the task at hand, but at the same time, I feel as if I can conquer the world. But still, I feel aroused and a bit anxious. Arousal from look at me standing here. and a bit anxious from feelings of insecurity, from will I really be able to deliver this top performance? At first, it is just a signal. How we will interpret that signal will depend on other things, not in the least your mindset. If you have a positive mindset or a neutral one, chances are slim that you would perceive anything as threatening. But when you have a negative mindset, everything will become threatening. Your negative mindset is your BFF, your best friend forever. She will bully your resilience, make you feel insecure, and pull you away from who you really are. Now, here's the thing. Your BFF is here to stay. So is it up to you to decide whether you sit with your BFF or you walk past her? But even when you decide to walk past her, she will shout at you and lure you back as much as possible. You notice that there are two phases. There is a signal and there is a response, enhancing that signal. And once we are in this response, it's very difficult to turn it off. And the longer the response goes on, the more we will feel pressured. It is as if a ceiling comes down on us to crush us, leaving us with physical complaints. So, how did I go about to fix things? What did I do to make things better and push that ceiling upwards again? Well, I learned that I had to create a distance between the signal and the response. The bigger the distance, the better. And the better I became in it, the more stress I could handle. Now, I can feel your enthusiasm on this stage. And at the same time, you are wondering, Elke, what do we need to do to create that distance? Well, that is quite simple. You only have to do two things. One, exercising, and two, breathing. I told you it was going to be simple. You have everything available at hand in order to do this. Anyone who can't breathe, maybe? So every time I exercise, the stress is blown away from my brain. And every time I start breathing, I take back control and push the ceiling upwards. And like that, I create a distance between the signal and the response. And it is in that distance that I start tackling my challenges. Yeah, right, you're now saying. If this is all true, how is it possible that so many people suffer toxic stress? Good question. Because it is one thing to create a distance between your signal and the response. It is another to find the right solutions to start tackling your challenges. In order to do that, you need your brain regions to collaborate. And in order for that, we need what I will now simply put a perfect balance between your stress hormones and your recovery hormones. Your stress hormones, they are triggered when you feel threatened, and they will enable us to react. Your recovery hormones, they will make sure you can recover after that reaction, and they will make sure that you will not suffer negative effects of all those stress peaks. Your recovery hormones, they will come to their full potential in times of rest. And not just any rest. It requires, again, two things. One, you need to be able to relax your body. And two, you need to be able to generate a good feeling about yourself. And only then will your recovery hormones come to their full potential. So, when you feel aroused and anxious, you do not only need to implement exercising and breathing, but also implement sufficient recovery time. So since my epiphany, I call exercising, breathing, and recovery time my soul sisters. My soul sisters, they sit 2 tables away from my BFF. So I always have to pass my BFF in order to get to my soul sisters. But once I sit there, I feel good. So when I started to get to know my soul sisters and started to hone them, I got an unexpected advantage. I still feel stressed, but I did not lose myself anymore. So I could detect those signals before they became disabling. So I could start embracing my stress. And I started to embrace the signals. And I started to listen. And by listening, I realized that it was indicating me where not to go and what not to do. Now, during my epiphany, I noticed that I had put my soul sisters in the if I have time category. Work always came first, and my BFF became my only friend. When I look around today, I see that a lot of people are neglecting their soul sisters or even avoiding them. A lot of people are fighting stress, and a lot of people are losing their battle. But still, we keep on teaching people how to fight stress, how to run away from stress. So could it not be that we actually need to teach people how to grow from stress? And yes, there are still many moments of stress in my life, but I feel safe with my stress. I know she will guide me to a better place. I know she will lead me away from stormy weather. So, this is what I've learned. This is what I love and care about, and this is what I want to do. To help you start loving stress. And my mission is not only to introduce a new way of dealing with stress, but also to bring people together and create this new language on stress that will navigate us outside the stress crisis. Thank you.
Ja.